Ciao, I'm Anna Harsh, professional dancer, author, and host of The Dance Floor, a podcast that explores the power of dance in our lives through personal stories and interviews with experts. Each episode shares life lessons and advice through the art of dance. Learn how dance inspires confidence, fosters connection, and ways to improve your skills. Whether you are a seasoned dancer or brand new to the art, you'll find something that motivates you in this podcast. So grab your dance shoes and join me on The Dance Floor. Welcome everyone to The Dance Floor. Today I have a very special guest, Dina Gregory, a teacher, author, and host of the podcast La Befana's Table. Welcome, Dina.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
We've been chatting off and on Instagram, and I'm in love with all of your stuff and your podcast and what a creative soul you are. I just want to talk into all of the things that you love, teaching and podcasting and all of those things.
I mean, I think a lot stems from like my origin, like my home, I think, what I'm creating now with La Befana's Table, the longing that I've been after. I think I've gotten into everything because I have a longing, a wild, holy longing. But I think it was kind of born at my family's kitchen table. We're Italian American, but, I was really close with my nonna, and, our table was like, and it might be that I'm looking at with the nostalgia glasses as well in some way, which is interesting looking back. But I grew up at some of those core memories were just like being at a table with my family and sharing stories and singing songs. And that was like the place that felt like the richest, felt like I was home, felt like there was something really real.
Yeah, there's always something magical about a kitchen table with family, isn't it? It's a safe space where we can talk about our day, share our stories and dreams that we hope for tomorrow. Yeah. It's like the sitting version of a passeggiata, where you can sit and share your hopes and dreams and share a bit of yourself around the table and learn something from each other. Food just always brings us together.
It does. And there was just always this sense of, I don't know, I'm as much as I'm an extrovert, I'm like an introvert who's kind of simultaneously observing my world, which kind of puts me in it, but to the side of it. And one of the things that I think has driven me wherever I've gone, a lot of my seeking journey, whether that's spiritual or whether that's cultural or to my jobs, has been like whatever that sense was that I had there. There's it created a longing in me for home. And I remember there was this one project that I had when I was in high school, and all of the teachers had gotten together to do an immigration project. The history teacher, we did history part and English part, we did this. And there was at one point where we had to give our presentations, and I did an okay job at my paper. I wrote a little bit of the Italian immigration, but I really just focused on my family. And I brought in a video and I showed the class of all of us singing around the table. They used to just kind of harmonize different songs, old kind of jazz songs or other things. And I remember at that time, and in my presentation, I said here it is, I'm sharing with you, I think, such a beautiful piece of what it means for me to be Italian American is this feeling right here. But I'm scared that feeling will soon be gone,
Right.
And it was probably not even a couple years later until my grandmother passed, and then my great aunt passed, and then whatever that was never existed again,
Yeah. We're that next generation that is trying to maybe redo that kind of feeling and, rejuvenate maybe that sort of situation. And I think the next generation would love that if they could experience it.
And there's a difference, right? Because, I grew up a little bit with my mom, our big basement family dinners on Weirfield Street in Queens and all of this stuff. And so I would hear this lore, this family lore. And I always think when kind of people tell it, there is almost sometimes the rose-colored glasses of being able to look back at the nostalgia of it. Not always, of course it's not always perfect. You know what I mean? Your family around a table. That's right. That's not always perfect. But there was that sense of togetherness. And I think I had been chasing that my whole life in
right.
And that's kind of,
I think we're all longing for community right now. And you're out of New York City, the hustle and bustle, right, of our country, and I think we're all looking for that. And as dancers, I know dancers, whenever we gather, and anytime I teach the folk dances and we start with holding hands, just that moment, that magic moment when hands touch, we become a community, don't we?
Yeah.
And it's instant and it's magical. Dina, talk to us a little bit about what does inspire you, because all of us creative souls out there have some kind of spark that, like, it's my go-to. It's what inspires me all the time.
What inspires me? I mean, I'm mostly inspired by just like there's a magic of life. I think there's a way that we can, I think the gift of like having the artist makeup, the way, whether we're actually doing our art, full time or not, like that lens of seeing the world is like, it's seeing into the depths of things. I think I'm inspired by the fact that like it could be, like what is ordinary can be extraordinary when it's perceived in a certain way, or when a story is told in a certain way, and the way that they illuminate, new things out of old things.
Yeah, you're right. Life has, in general, just living has lots of inspirations, highs and lows that we can explore as artists. And I always tell dancers, and especially young dancers that want to be choreographers, tell your story through movement. Oh. Who are you as a person? Tell your story. What does that look like visually? So we can do that in different ways. And I know that you also are an author. So what are some things that you write about as well?
I never identified as an artist for a while. It was like, I come from very creative family, but I was like, for a long time, I kind of squashed creativity. I saw it as dangerous. I saw, I had stories around creativity, and it was like later that it was just like, whoa, a new like creative awakening in me. And for me, writing has always been just like, that's been my go-to source of like emotional excavation, of going like, here's something and I need to get to the bottom of it. Like it's very been a personal kind of contemplative writing. The book that I published in 2020 is a memoir, it came from pain, and it was like creative alchemy. It's like, I remember when I did write my book, it's called Love at the Threshold. It was a time period of, death, divorce, getting fired.
But real life, that's real life.
Deep dark night of the soul. And writing has always been kind of that searching power, like, okay, I'm searching for the thing under it. And that's been kind of my tool. That's been just my emotional excavation tool in some ways. And like with my book, I think it's funny, right? We make something, we have our expectations of what it might be. Then we realize what it really was. I was like, well, if I'm going to get her to let me feel this pain, this is going to be the next Eat, Pray, Love. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so watching so many of those types of films, woman, finds herself, leaves her ordinary life, goes on a journey, like I was very much inspired by that, actually, that kind of journey, the woman who finds out who she really is and what she's made
of.
And, and I had a lot of, when you write something, I was an independent author. I just wrote it. I wasn't waiting for permission. And it's a kind of humbling experience, because then you go, wait a second, here I am going like, am I writing these words for someone else, or am I writing them for me? And like, am I letting the thing that I'm creating transform me? So it was like,
ooh.
For me, like, as I've been sitting with that, it's like, okay, it was like, let me just make space. It was like clearing the vessel. It was like, I need to witness myself. I need to witness my truth that's not storied, right? Because I have the enchanting story. I can tell you the enchanted story version of my story, but I had a real need to just go, this is as it was, without all the, the magical details or the exaggerations, which Italians are so good at. But
there's extras. There's extras.
Some of the experiences that I went through as it was, simple as it was, and just almost be my own witness. And so that, and that healed, like, it just felt like, okay, there we go. We're cleared out. And, after clearing that out, then something else came through, and then it was like, then I was running around with La Befana. And then I felt like really like that writing made way for me to learn about La Befana and who she is for me in that archetype,
That's perfect.
As I look at it, because you start to do a creative work and you're like, oh, I want it to do this. And then you're like, oh, this is like actually a transformative experience for me.
Yeah, I usually tell my students that, when they enter the space to take a class or to have rehearsal or perform, you have to clear and make space. You can't come in with all of yesterday's news. You got to let it go, because you need to create that clean vessel so that something new and refreshing comes through and the truth comes out in your work.
Real truth. And I think that's right. It's like, that book exists. I'm so much, you know what I mean? It's so weird.
Like different.
Wait a second. People then finish a book and then they go and promote it, but they're a different person. Like,
right.
I'm like, that girl, I don't even know who she is.
On my book tours, I've been kind of saying what has helped me because of I wrote this book. Right. What has changed since I've written this book? Who it's changing also, like besides myself, but who else is getting, transformed or whatever because of it.
The things that we do create, the short stories that they share, first and foremost, they change us. They don't change us. How are they really going to change? How are they going to be the medicine for someone else?
Exactly. Dina, I'm always giving advice to the next generation that's always learning from this generation. What advice would you give to those young artists out there starting out maybe they don't have that confidence? We talk about confidence a lot. And I know that some days I don't have confidence, but what are some life lessons or something you could, piece of advice you could offer?
Well, I feel like I'm still talking to myself, honestly. But I'd say, one, we're all artists, and that it is a human necessity to express. It is part of what makes us better human beings, whether we become paid artists or not. That the ability to express through the creative arts, to take a life experience and turn it into something else, puts us in touch with the act of creation. So that's what I would say. Please, if someone were hearing this, the younger, like, don't get screwed over by your art teacher who says you're not this, or, because early on, I think in education, they go, oh, you're an artist, you're not. It's a terrible disservice to our human evolution. When you don't tap in to your capacity to be creative and generative, you become destructive.
The arts really solve so many problems. Sometimes people ask me what my job title is, and I say a problem solver. Because as a choreographer, I'm always putting puzzle pieces together. Like, what does go here? Or finding new ways, new avenues to go from the right side of the stage to the left side of the stage. So I'm always thinking about ways to solve that problem. So, it's different skills that we put on and acquire through being creative. So you're right. Stop making yourself thinking that you're not a dancer, a painter, a writer, or whatever, a creative soul, because you are. You just haven't explored it maybe.
And the space to develop it. You know what I mean? At least in my journey, is going, wait, first acknowledging, whoa, that's stuff in me. That maybe dissatisfaction is creative potential. I really don't think that we tell young people how to harness that. I mean, on many levels, if you look at what's going on in society, at least for me, just to be deeply honest, I was a very highly creative person, but no one helped me shape it. No one helped me when I was younger. So how did that express? It expressed through trying to get the external validation from
whomever. Yeah. Anyone.
So I feel like there's a lot going on, and
there's a lot bubbling up, and especially those teenage years, they don't know what to do with those changes, and sometimes music and dance or painting or drawing or writing, journaling, all of those creative outlets help, organize maybe those feelings or thoughts and help them work through it.
I think they help them work through it. And all of those things are sensual experiences. I think that's an aspect of life that we're missing, right? Like there is to be fully alive, to truly be fully alive, embodied, you have to embrace the sensuality of life, which is very different from some of the other stuff. The over sexuality, I think, that we see in some of places, I think stems from a lack of like a truly sensual life where you're in touch with the aliveness of everything, so that you want to write poetry, that you want to dance, you are a part of this organism that is life and creation.
Dina, for all of my theater gurus out there and theater students, I know you did some puppeteering.
Yes.
Share a little bit about how that came about for you and what the experience taught you?
Well, I call myself a reluctant puppeteer. I did not ever go like, I want to be a puppeteer.
Right.
I have some early childhood memories of me and my father putting on puppet shows.
Wow.
That was fun. You know, we got be on the couch, we'd do some things, we'd do some voices.
Right.
That was a seed in my mind.
Mm.
I ended up finding, this puppet of La Befana from someone else, a friend who had created this puppet, and had started a project and then didn't continue with that project. And I was like, wait, there's a puppet that's just like sitting in a box and she's the gift giver of Italy. And I had not ever known that character until this encounter. And
for those that don't know, La Befana is a good witch that she usually flies through the night on January 6th, bringing gifts to children.
Yeah. The eve of the Epiphany, bringing children gifts. And
it was my favorite day.
I mean, if now it's my favorite day, I'm obsessed with it. And I'm like, how did I not, third generation? Okay. So maybe we lost traditions like what we're doing right now. Like I'm, in my way, preserving an aspect of my cultural identity, but through the naming of this podcast and naming it after La Befana and you with the dance. But so I had puppeteered La Befana and I was not a puppeteer. And I was like, what is going on? And it was like, honestly, just like, it was like my soul. It was just like
spilled out.
Just spilled out. Something spilled out. It was like like this puppet just wanted to have a new experience. And I was
I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. And so,
I know a lot of theater students that are, they do the acting side of it and do stage work, but then there's some students that I've known and run across are like, I'm also a puppeteer. I'm like, that's amazing. And you get to be somebody else just from moving a puppet. So, that's fantastic.
I mean, I did like I had done some theater in like elementary school and I never got into it because later I was like the jock and they very much separated the jocks from the theater kids. So I had theatery parts in me, but I've never studied acting. I've not studied puppetry, but I just did it. So it was very natural. And like, I think it was like bringing something in me that was always there. I think it was like this encounter was like La Befana showing me what my gifts are. She's like, but I didn't really know, like all of a sudden.
Still giving. Yeah. She's still giving.
Still giving. And I'm like, she's like, yeah, those are some of your gifts, Dina.
Those are your gifts and you need to share it. That's fantastic, Dina. I'm so excited about continuing to listen to your podcast and all of the great guests that you have. For my listeners, can you tell us how can we listen to your podcast, La Befana's Table?
Yeah, so La Befana's Table is available on my Substack, and you can get episodes direct to your inbox as well as access to some community hours that I'm putting together because I want La Befana's Table to be more than just a podcast. I'm not just interested in having you guys listen to this, but for us to collectively build this table together, right? So that we can get in La Befana's little magic kitchen and dance some, Italian folk music.
Right.
So really, be together and share each other's stories. So
be a real community in real life.
So that's my vision, right? I've put this out in the form of a podcast because I can't have everyone over in my apartment at the same time.
Wouldn't that be fantastic?
We can create that feeling, but then, how do we build something? So I'm learning as I go. And I think that's the beauty of being an artist is like, we don't know what we're creating. We're trusting that it is already created and we're kind of unveiling it. I feel like it's like, a sculpture in some way that I'm kind of chipping away and I think La Befana's table already knows what it wants to be, and it's just kind of waiting for the people who are supposed to be at it to come there. So you can find it dinagregory.substack.com. That's my Substack. La Befana's table comes out every Thursday, and on every Sunday I share like a little contemplation where I, just kind of share just little thoughts on like the messy, beautiful journey of becoming. We're in this like,
I agree.
Becoming, and who are we becoming, and who might we become if we have a bunch of people from all walks of life sitting at this magical table together. Like,
yeah, we learn from each other. That's the beauty of why I like dance, because every time I take a class, I'm like, gosh, I love how he or she moved this way. And so we're learning from each other.
There's so much to learn. And I think that's, I'm professionally, my day job, I'm a teacher, but I'm a lifelong learner.
Right.
I want to sit at a table curious. I think there's so many people right now in our very polarized world they all know. And I want to not know. I want to like be at this table with a wonder of, my invitation is like, what is the world that we create when we look at it through La Befana's eyes?
Right.
Every person who comes to this table, whether I like them or not, because I'm not a mythological character. I'm a human who has preferences. Some people I like, some people I don't. At this magical table, what is it like to look at a person across from me who might have a totally different background, a totally different system of beliefs, and go, wow, you have a divine, holy child in you. And what if, how she's on perpetual search for the holy child. What would it be like to look at each other like that?
Exactly.
Each other from that place.
Yeah, there's so many things that we have in common as human beings. And the more I teach cultural dance, whether they're Italian or not, they're like, oh, I have something similar in my culture. It's like, because we all love food, we all love music, we all love dance, we all love the arts, and we all want to belong and be seen.
Yeah. And we're longing, and I'm saying this from a difference. We're longing for communion.
Yes.
Together. And there's so much stuff that gets in the way. And so I want La Befana's table to be the place where we're like, okay, all those things, not in the way. Let's be together. Let's practice this awkward thing called being together, which is a little weird because I don't think we actually know how to be together. Folk dance, while we're in a circle, what's that in this individualistic, hierarchical world that we live in? What does it mean?
To make a circle is really, everyone is equal. Everyone is community, and we're all important in the circle to make up that circle.
Yeah. And everyone is necessary. And
everyone is necessary for sure. It doesn't make it go round unless we all work together.
And I think that's where I'm kind of being drawn now. As you said, it doesn't matter what culture. My journey to now starting to like really ignite my interest and curiosity and desire to really get into more Italian folkloric dance. It's because I first heard a djembe drum played when I was 16 years old in a trip to Paris. And then after that djembe, I learned about salsa music and where those rhythms came from. And then I learned about Brazilian forró music. I didn't at that point know that my own cultural heritage had a tradition of drumming and dance. Through everyone being kind enough to not only, and courageous enough to not only express their cultural dances and express who they are and invite me and allow me as someone who's not a part of that culture to dance and to benefit from that, I ended up slowly and eventually finding this. But I would have never gotten here had it not
all those things happened. Yeah.
Two other cultures that have not lost that connection.
Right. Correct.
And they've had the courage to maintain it and express it.
It's like going back to your table. It's like breaking bread with someone. They're allowing you to break bread with them through their music and dance of their culture. And that's what it's for. It's to share, to share at the table and, as a performance table or on a stage anyway, or in Italy, it's in a piazza, So I think those are important lessons for the next generation to continue to learn and explore.
That's a
lot.
And just when you're entering a space, whether you're entering La Befana's table, you're entering the dance floor in this metaphorical sense on the podcast or on the real thing, like, how can we enter a space without all the stuff that we're bringing to it?
Amen.
Enter it and go, whoa, this is, because it is new. But
it is
a whole bunch of other stuff with us. So like, what's that dance look like?
Yeah, exactly. You have to walk into these spaces without any of that baggage and be open to learning something brand new. You know, don't come in with your crossed arms and, you know, your preconceived ideas. You have to be ready to be open to new things.
Like you might leave with a new perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
You know, I think so many times in what I've struggled in finding places of like belonging, like that it's like, are you trying to change me, or can we just meet in a space and maybe I leave one of the ideas that I came here behind. Like maybe I walked into here and one of those thoughts that I thought was really important, maybe I leave that at the door and I leave with something else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that makes you a different artist and a better artist. And you leave with a new perspective of, hey, I didn't know that. I've learned something new.
We need that so badly right now. I feel like
we do.
The role of the artist right now in particular is huge.
Yeah, I agree.
To imagine, to tap us into just the gifts of beauty, because I think beauty opens people's eyes. It becomes like a crack into, wait, there's something beyond that beauty.
I think if more people were exposed to different kinds of art forms, they would see how beautiful it is, and they would find some kind of beauty in different art forms. You know, there's always going to be something beautiful to look at, to listen to explore. And I think if more people just, like you said, had that opportunity, have that open space where they could just tap into it. Oh gosh, I can imagine a world like that.
From that beginner mind, I just want to play. You know, I remember when I started opening into some of these creative interests that I was a little afraid of. And it was like, wait a second, Dina, no one's judging you. What would little 2-year-old Dina do? She'd just go do it. She'd go and I'm bored. Let me pick up something else.
Explore.
Let me try. Let's explore. And we've lost that. And I think so much of like the negativity of the world, or people who are unhappy, is like, where did the spirit of exploration go?
I don't know, but I hope we find it soon. I don't know.
More, and
So the next project, hopefully we get a chance to see each other on a real dance floor soon.
I'm hoping soon. I'm going to keep that date. July 7th is the next one. And
July 7th. So if you're in the Jeanette, Pennsylvania area, join me and Dina on the real dance floor. I'm offering a free Italian dance workshop and exploring different tarantellas and circle dances from the northern part of Italy. So come, bring your family, bring your friends. Join me and Dina on the dance floor in Jeanette, Pennsylvania. And I'll leave more information about Dina's podcast in the notes, as well as the Jeanette July 7th workshop.
Yes, I love it. I'm hoping for more collaborations and that we can get people between you and I, we get people both at La Befana's table and the dance floor, and maybe they become a big old space together. Who knows?
Listen, where two are gathered, right? Where two are gathered.
Where two are gathered, full of pasta. And
absolutely. I love it. Dina, you are a joy today. And thank you for sharing your creative spirit and your soul and all kinds of great information and advice for the next generation. I hope they're listening and taking notes as we're speaking.
Yeah, take notes.
Take notes, everyone. All right. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'm Anna Harsh, and you've been listening to The Dance Floor.